Hello everybody. Do your squash plants suddenly wilt after looking perfectly healthy the day before? Might be squash vine borers. Let's look at some squash vine borer damage from the larvae. And go ahead and pull these up because they're not going to do anything. Have a pretty nice root on it, but you kind of get that sawdust look, and they work from the inside of the vine, so they have to be treated from the inside. See if I can find one in here. There's one right there. That's what the larva looks like. And they just tunnel and have a good old time inside that vine. If you can catch them quick enough, you can extract them and I've taken a zip tie and zipped the vine back together and set it on its merry little way for a little while. If I had a lizard, they just love those. I don't have a lizard out here right now. But yeah, the squash vine borer did a number on these. But it's the experimental trap crop, and I did absolutely nothing to these plants. Just wanted to see how quickly they would succumb. And it didn't take long, because last weekend these looked great. But they're done now. Clean them up. Destroy the vine, because we don't want those hatching out. That's for sure. Let's see how I control them. Traps. I use a couple different kinds here. I'll leave links in the description. Foil. Diatomaceous earth. And some BT worm killer. I'm going to inject that into the plants. This is 4 teaspoons per gallon, but I'm just going to mix up a little bit. So I'm going to accurately measure a splash. And then the balance is water. Get this set up. See, like that. And that will inject into the plants. We're going to do that first. We'll go out to the garden and get set up out there. Alright, out at the squash patch. Now I had these covered until this morning, where they would get growing and almost to the point where they were blooming, but before the squash vine borers could have a heyday with them. What I'm going to do here is very carefully want to go in, don't want to pierce the other side, and then just slowly fill that hollow vine up with the BT worm killer. So I'm going to do all the other plants. I'll go ahead and get this one. And this doesn't seem to harm the stems. That one's already full. Got 3 plants. I want to make sure that each plant gets some BT worm killer in the stem. And just for the heck of it, I'll put some around the bottom there. So after I've treated the inside of the plant, I am going to treat the outside with the diatomaceous earth. So that should be pretty good. After that, I am going to wrap the bottom of the stem with some of this foil. Just kind of cut it to fit. So that's easier to do when the plants are small and the vine borers are just starting to get interested in them. And I've been known to take the older leaves off. And I'm just going to simply wrap the stem where it comes out of the ground about 4 inches or so, because that's where they like to start. And of course, as time goes on, they will just go crazy over the whole plant. And that way the plant can expand as it grows. The foil won't be too tight. So get this third one. This little fella here. And then we're not quite done yet. I like to mound up the dirt. Pull off some of these first leaves. And really like to keep underneath my squash plants clean. Because I also have a nemesis called the squash bug. And they make a mess as well. So I will recheck these once a week and re-inject them once a week. If I need to add a little more foil, I can do that. But I may, just for the heck of it, put a little more DE around. There we go. And then I'm going to move to this other plant. Well, here's a more mature plant. I've already done this procedure on once. I did a variation where I did duct tape on the stems. Kind of experimenting to see which works better. As the plants mature, it's much easier to inject the BT. So another way to combat the squash vine borer is look for the egg right there. And I usually take that off and just smash it. Something like that. I'm not seeing any more at the moment, but that's the good thing. If I miss some, that's why I inject that BT worm killer. Like there's one on the blossom there. They start laying eggs on everything. Yep, and had another one on that blossom, so I try to check. It's a pain, but you got to check them about every day for the eggs. Just pick off and destroy as many as possible. So there's a couple more right there. Just take my thumbnail and then find a hard surface and destroy them. So those don't. So there was 4 right there that did not hatch out. And you can just pick eggs off and pick eggs off. So there's that step. So now I'll go ahead and do the dusting. Alright, so that plant is treated for a few days anyway. It's time to get some traps set up. These are pretty easy right here. I always order the Pheromone cap and the insecticide strip. And now to assemble the trap. Simply drop the insecticide strip inside the base of the bucket. And I'll get the Pheromone cap. It goes in this little basket. Doesn't matter which way. It's got a little cap on it. Cap goes in here in the top, in the lid. Just sets down in there, something like that. There's top. It can be mounted on a rebar or something like that, or it's got a small rope to hang it from the top. And then this piece just snaps into place. It's got four little nubs to snap into place there. So this trap is ready to go, fully assembled. Probably wash the hands for a good time there. So that kind is done. And then I have a couple of these around as well, these sticky traps. Try not to touch this section here. Very sticky. Get this all opened up. And these simply snap in. And on my other trap, I don't have any more, but I took one of those pheromones and just stuck it onto that trap. I'll demonstrate that in a little while. So this is ready to hang up. Almost. So this, we'll put this strap on there and it'll be ready to hang up. Here's one I already have in service. And there's all the dead squash vine borers in there. So there's that less laying eggs on my plants, so that's a good thing. And here's this style of trap. There's my Pheromone, and just look at all the squash vine borers stuck to that. In particular, close to the Pheromone, so you can see how effective that is. Not too many on the backside where there's no Pheromone. And here are the traps installed. So let's see if I can control these squash vine borers with the traps, foil, Diatomaceous earth, and BT worm killer. Okay, looks like I can finally wrap this experiment up. This is the Hubbard squash I planted as a trap crop for the squash vine borer. Got the traps and everything over here. And as you can see, it's absolutely decimated by the squash vine borer. Let's now take a look at the squash plants that were planted probably a month before those Hubbard squash. As you can see, these over here that I have been treating and babysitting are a lot better off. There are some starting to succumb to the squash vine borer, but as you can see with the maintenance procedure, I can absolutely prolong the harvest season, but I will be pulling these pretty soon as they're starting to decline, and I'll start seed for my fall squash, and I will keep those covered up until they start putting on blooms, just to try to mitigate the squash vine borer. They're pretty bad in my area, but just a little bit of things that I do to help prolong the harvest. Thank you for watching.